She took Social Security early, and now she's nearly broke. So from the live stream I did last night, a man put a comment in there. He goes, his mom took Social Security at 62, thinking that she would die when she's 70. Well, she's 81 now, and she's struggling financially. And this is the challenge. Look, I'm the guy who says the vast majority of us are not going to live until we're 90, certainly not 95, all right? Now, prove me wrong, that's fine. But the hedge against that would be to wait till take Social Security later. It's just a fact, because if you took it at 62, that's $2,000 a month. If you waited till you're 70, that's $4,000 a month. You know, just not quite numbers, but you get what I'm saying. And then you factor in COLAs. You take it at 62, you get 2.4% COLA. That's $48 that you get as an increase. You take it at 70, you get a 2.4% COLA. What's that, $96, right? Yeah, so you get, I mean, the COLAs add up to make the difference even greater on a higher amount. And the issue is always, if Social Security, if everything else goes to pot, you still always can rely on Social Security. That's what I tell people, man. For me, spending down my I mean, look, you got to look at it as like liquidity. I get it. But spending down my portfolio before I take Social Security makes sense for two reasons. One is I don't think the markets are going to give me the rate of return delaying Social Security will give me. I don't. I think Social Security, under the current way it's constructed, will provide me a better rate of return than the markets will. Two, there's more than two things here. Social Security is more tax efficient. Now, for me, it's not, because all my money's in Roth or brokerage accounts, so it's all as tax efficient as you could possibly make it. So I won't pay any tax when I retire. But if you're in a pre-tax environment, you know, Social Security, at least the first 15% is tax-free. And again, as I showed you in many videos, you can manipulate your income to pay even less and less tax on Social. Can't do that with a brokerage or an IRA. You can't. IRAs are all come out taxes ordinary income for the very first penny. I mean, that's just a fact. Now, you have a standard deduction, and thankfully, because of Trump, our standard deductions are higher now than they've ever been, which is fantastic. So you can take a certain amount out to hit your standard deduction, not pay tax, but anything above that is taxed at ordinary income rates. Where Social Security, again, has a way that at least we know 15% is tax-free, and you can make it even more tax-free as well. All right, so we got liquidity, we got brokerage, the performance. All right, I don't expect the performance of the brokerage account to do as well, or the investments to do as well as Social Security. Taxation of Social Security is preferable to taxation on IRA in particularly. All right, and then on top of that, if the markets fall, you know, going back to October 1st, 2007 to March 9th of 2009, S&P 500 was down 57%. Wellington was down 37%. Wellesley was down 22%. All right. So if you're relying on your portfolio and your portfolio is sinking like a freaking brick in water, that's going to be a trying time. You know what was not down was your Social Security. Now, it didn't go up. There's no COLA in 2009, I think. Yeah, no COLA in 2009. Don't quote me on that, but one of those years. But you had a guarantee that you had this certain amount of level income you could not outlive. That's just a fact. So you got three things weighing against you when it comes to this. Never mind the odds of, you know, you might live beyond. I mean, remember the break-even point for Social Security, just comparing Social Security break-even, not including anything else, taxation, nothing like that, is about 78 to 81. All right, so if you live beyond 81, or certainly 81, but if you live beyond 78, most likely you'd be better off waiting. That's just a fact. Just a fact. Now, I understand, like, what did that lady do for income if she, you know, like, for instance, she still needs money. You know, how does she replenish that $2,000 a month Social Security that she had at 62? I don't know. I don't know her story. I mean, we'd have to dive into that. But, or maybe she kept working. I don't know. But for clients that I deal with, it's like, how do we replace the phantom income from Social Security? We're not getting Social Security. It wasn't going to give us $2,000 a month. How do we replace that $2,000 a month in order to defer taking it later? And we have to come up with a strategy for that, for sure. But in this case, she didn't, and it's water under the bridge now because she's 81 and she's struggling financially. Cost of Medicare going up again, and another part of this is I show Medicare premiums going up by all health costs going up by 5.5%, which is more than doubling your Social Security expectations for COLAs. And so every year your Medicare is going by it's increased by 5.5, where your Social Security is only increased by 2.4. So every year your Medicare costs are creeping up on your Social Security benefit. And Medicare, by the way, isn't subject, unless you don't sign up right away, but we know for a fact what your Medicare is going to be. Basically $200 a month today for Part B and $50 a month today for Part D. We know that for a fact. All right, so it doesn't matter. You can't take Medicare early. You can take it later, but that'd be stupid. So we know that you're going to have a $250 sunk cost in Medicare, and that doesn't include your supplement or your Medicare Advantage. So we know for a fact it's going to cost you $250. All right. So if you're getting Social Security at $2,000 a month, and your Medicare is $250 a month, basically over 10% of your Social Security is going to Medicare. Sadly, that's going to grow more and a larger and larger and larger, closing the gap. 5 years from now, for simplicity, I haven't done the math, I'll just use my head. You'll get $2,500 a month in Social Security, but your Medicare will cost you $400 a month. All right, so that gap is closing each and every year. I'm telling you, man, it's no joke. Like, these people throw these comments out there like, just take it 62. Or they'll say, it'll run out of money. I'm like, well, hey, we know for a fact it's not running out of money. It's just not. Now, they could say there'll be a 25% cut, but that's a 25% across the board cut for everybody. It's not just people who aren't taking it. It's for the current enrollees too. So if you defer to take it till 70 and Mrs. Smith here took it at 62, they said we got to do a 25% cut for everybody. You think Mrs. Smith is going to be exempt from that because she is already on it, and yet you who waited till you're 70 is going to be the one who bear the brunt of that? Does anyone know how politics works? Why do you think the squeaky wheel? This is where we got to learn. The Republicans need to learn better. And it's just, we're too busy doing stuff. We don't have rent-a-moms and all that stuff. But why do you think, what's his name? Nassim Nicholas Taleb talks about the tyranny of the minority. It's a very interesting article. Maybe one of these days I'll do a video on it. I don't think I ever did a video on that. I did do a video on his intellectual yet idiots, IYIs, about the people who think they're all that so smart because they've been educated, i.e. indoctrinated, but they don't have they don't know what the hell they're doing. You know what I'm saying? They don't have any common sense. So he calls it intellectual yet idiotic, or intellectual yet idiots. But he also calls the tyranny of the minority. Very interesting way he kind of shakes this out. So anyway, if you're a freaking rabble-rouser, politicians just want to be left alone. So it's all right, what does it take to get you Jesse Jacksons, Al Sharptons to get off my lawn? All right, you need $10,000, I'll give you $10,000. Just get off my lawn. And then the workers out here, are sitting there busting their butts. We don't have time to go protest and all that. We don't have rent-a-mobs. And so we don't get talked to because we're just too busy running our lives. Where the rabble-rousers and the rent-a-mobs are out there in front of the politicians, and as such, the politicians get greased. So anyway, the point being is, if they actually cut your Social Security, you think the politicians, do you not know the Dan Rostenkowski town hall? Again, I haven't talked about Rostenkowski for a long time. Look up Dan Rostenkowski, 1988 town hall in Chicago. A very left-wing congressman who was chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, which is one of the most, literally in terms of all Congress, the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee is the people who write the checks for all government spending, and he's the chairman of that. All right, so if you're the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, you are a powerful mofo, if you know what I'm saying. He's probably second most in line behind friggin' the president of the United States. It's just a fact. So he went to a town hall in Chicago, the MAGA country, Chicago, with nooses. That anyone fell for that? This is a MAGA country. Dude, that anyone fell for that, and they all did. It's the same. Oh my God, dude. Anyway, he went to a town hall, and he was run out of the town hall because he was going to cut their Social Security. They thought, don't take hands off my benefits, Dan Rostenkowski. That's why they call it the third rail. Anyway, I just look, you got to do what you got to do, but just to randomly say, I'm taking that 62 because they're going to cut my benefit, or I'm taking that 62 because blah, blah, blah. It's like, have you actually thought this through, guy? If you haven't, you might want to do some thinking, because you might not live until you're 70, but you might live. You might. And what happens if you do live that long? What are you going to do? All right. God bless. Love your thoughts. We'll see you.